name is Joshua Grannell. My occupation is performing and producing as the drag persona Peaches Christ.
Do you think COVID-19 worsened queer spaces?
I think yes. I think it's having an effect on any small business. So queer or not, I think. But because queer culture, in many ways, and I think this is a good thing, is so centered around nightlife and performance spaces and creative spaces. I think those businesses, almost more than anything, are at risk, and so a larger majority of what would be considered queer spaces are at higher risk. Bars, nightclubs, theaters, um, that kind of business. So, well, we've already seen, the stud, while the collective is still hoping to reopen in a physical space at some point, but right now they don't have a home. So the stud bar, which was legendary, is gone. And I could probably think of more. I know the Eagle right now is a big question mark. Um, I've heard. Oh well, what was the one I just read about closing? The small bar in the Mission by El Rio. Ugh, I forget the name, but it closed recently. Um, anyway, yeah, I think we're gonna lose even more. It's gonna be devastating.
Right.
I will say this though, I have hope because having lived here long enough, I know that in the ashes, a phoenix can rise. And I actually think that San Francisco had become so suffocating and so problematic with the disparity of wealth. The rich were so rich and the poor were so poor. And, tech was overrunning the city, and our culture was kind of like being suffocated, and you couldn't afford to go in and find spaces. You couldn't afford to open a cafe. You couldn't afford to find an art space. And now, with this great exodus and sort of this huge economic crisis, people like myself, may actually get excited about what's going to happen, because what has happened in the past is the creatives, the artists, the weirdos, the people who aren't afraid to live in a city right now, we're kind of experiencing the great white flight all over again, like they did in the 50s. So cities could become more dangerous, grosser, but way more interesting. With lots more queer spaces and art and funky weird stuff that isn't profit driven.